I just remember that night that fancy Dan from the old country tried to slip out on you without paying.
That must have been near 10 years ago.
You twisted his balls so tight he's screeching like a plucked jaybird.
It always was the fellas with the most money who like paying the least.
Oh, yeah. Tough as iron, this one. Ain't she, John?
I'm getting tired of your mouth, old man. Why don't you try shutting it every once in a while?
Oh, who rattled your cage?
Are you as dumb as you look, old man? Most men got pride.
Abigail Marston. Born in 1877 as Abigail Roberts, her birthplace remains unspecified. She was orphaned at a young age with presumably dead parents. And for young Abigail, life began with adversity. At the tender age of 10, she was already navigating the dense forest, hunting for food, and finding shelter where she could. It is safe to assume that she would later seek shelter in diver bars and brothels around the West, supported from a Rockstar Games quote. Later in 1894, Abigail at the age of 17 was introduced to the Van der Linde gang by uncle. Young Abigail was introduced to the gang as a working girl or prostitute, and it was presumed that she slept with most of the gang members, but ended up falling in love with John.
To ride with us. We all had her. Oh, but he married her.
She would later fall pregnant with their son Jack when she was only 18 years old. John and Abigail would also have a daughter sometime later, but the baby did not make it. Disrespect towards Abigail can be heard from various gang members through the story. Even John, the father of her child, seemed disinterested in the child, at times claiming Jack wasn't his son, and even leaving the gang for about a year when Jack was only around 1 year old.
So, John, I was talking to little Jackie. There's a fine boy you got.
If he's mine.
Of course he's yours.
John, of course, returned to the group, but Abigail would still beg him to show interest in their son. This would lead to arguments between the two.
You and me is one thing, but will you at least try to make an effort with the boy?
If it'll shut you up, I'll try. But fathering ain't nothing I know about.
Here's a hint. Act like you ain't a selfish, bloodthirsty moron.
You mean lie?
Shut up.
You're a pathetic man, John Marston.
Don't I know it?
John was not only convinced that Jack wasn't his son, but he was also an outlaw with no intentions of living the family life.
You're a degenerate. A failure. Getting mighty sick of this.
I love you too, darling.
Get lost.
This would of course change as the story progressed. However, Abigail was shoved aside and disrespected for a long while.
Just trying to help my family, Dutch.
Contrary to common misconceptions, Abigail did not join the gang as a prostitute. This notion is not only historically unlikely within the context of gangs during that era, where women weren't typically forced into such roles, but it is also contradicted by several in-gang facts. To begin with, while Abigail was indeed working as a prostitute when Uncle found her and brought her into the gang, there's no evidence to suggest she continued in this profession within the gang. At the time, she was underage, and the gang had a different, more noble code of ethics. Historically, prostitutes often entered the profession due to coercion or trickery, and they didn't take pride in it. It's plausible to assume that Abigail's situation was no different, especially considering she joined the gang at the age of 17 in 1894. Dutch and Jose upheld a Robin Hood-like code of ethics, which they passed on to Arthur and John. It's highly unlikely they would rescue a young girl from a dire situation only to subject her to the same hardship she was trying to escape. Furthermore, the presence of other women in the camp who weren't treated in the same way suggests that the gang wasn't as cruel as some may believe. Secondly, John's doubts about Jack's parentage stem from his own traumatic upbringing. His mother was a prostitute, and his father was a violent alcoholic.
Boys, you're just too blind.
They got my family!
Your family? Abigail was any man's wife, John. And Jack, he's another horse, just like you.
It's doubtful that John's father had anything positive to say about his mother, whom he might not have even known. This difficult childhood likely influenced John's apprehensions about his own fatherhood and relationship with Jack. Thirdly, the only evidence suggesting Abigail was involved with other gang members comes from Dutch's remarks in RDR1 and antagonistic comments Arthur can make about her and Jack.
Oh, it's nice to see you, John.
Hello, Dutch.
How's Abigail?
Well, I hope. Ain't seen her for a while.
'Cause you've been chasing me?
Let the woman go, Dutch.
Of course. Of course. How's your little boy?
He ain't so little now.
No, he must be what? 15? 16? Doesn't time fly?
Don't adjust. It's over, man.
Of course. Of course. I surrendered, John. You're the master now.
I've been my master since you left me to die.
We all make mistakes, John. I never claimed to be a saint, but equally, I never took you for an errand boy.
Just trying to help my family, Dutch. By making compromises we all have to. Now let her go. It's over.
You want the girl, John? Huh? You always were the romantic sort. You know, gentlemen, this man here, oh, he married a whore. Used to ride with us. We all had her. Oh, but he married her. And you know that makes him a better man than us. He's a better man. Have the girl, John.
Easy, Dutch.
She's a parting gift from me.
Oh! God damn!
These comments are clearly intended to provoke and antagonize, not to provide factual information. Moreover, the timeline doesn't support the claim that Javier, whom Jack is suggested to resemble, could be his father. Javier didn't join the gang until after Jack was born in 1895, ruling him out as a potential father. A photograph in Pearson's shop during the epilogue shows baby Jack in Abigail's arms, but Javier is absent. In the scene from RDR1 where Dutch taunts John about Abigail, it's important to remember that he's holding a woman hostage during a tense situation. His comments are meant to provoke a reaction from John, who cares deeply for Abigail. Regarding a conversation in the epilogue where Uncle and Abigail reminisce about her unconventional means of ensuring payment from a John around 10 years ago in 1907, it's possible that this is an oversight in the game's dialogue. Games of this complexity sometimes contain minor errors, and Uncle's aging and drinking habits could contribute to such discrepancies. Lastly, it's crucial to note that women in the profession of prostitution typically didn't become active mothers. Pregnancy and childbirth brought significant physical changes, making it unsafe for them to continue working. In the epilogue, the timeline indicates that Jack would have been 2 years old in 1897, which makes it highly improbable that Abigail would have returned to prostitution. I'd like to point out a few additional factors to consider. If one is using statements made by Dutch, Bill, or Javier to John as evidence of Abigail's involvement with the gang, it's important to question the reliability of these sources. Dutch is renowned for his emotional manipulation. Bill tends to be impulsive and prone to exaggerating exploits to bolster his masculinity, even if they never occurred, and Javier's loyalty lies with Dutch, shaping his perceptions. Moreover, Javier wasn't even part of the gang until the year Jack was born. Therefore, the remarks from these three about Abigail are more indicative of a pack mentality fueled by rumors rather than concrete evidence. There's also a noteworthy scene between Abigail and Grimshaw, where it's suggested that Grimshaw may want Abigail to return to her former profession.
Singing's fine, but I'm done with that, and if you want me to leave, then that's fine too.
Well, I suppose I can discuss the matter with Dutch.
Do whatever you goddamn please.
I dance above her station.
Abigail, however, strongly expresses her disapproval of this idea. Her clear aversion to that life and her unwillingness to engage with the entire gang make it highly unlikely that she willingly pursued such relationships within the gang. Regarding Arthur and Abigail, His mention of potentially marrying her can be interpreted as regret for the life he may have had with Mary, and is one of the reasons he is concerned about John repeating his mistakes. While there might have been a deeper connection between Arthur and Abigail at some point, it's doubtful. In conclusion, it's essential to approach the complex characters and relationships in Red Dead Redemption 2 with a nuanced perspective. While there may be hints and suggestions about past relationships and actions, it's important not to oversimplify Abigail's character and reduce her to a one-dimensional stereotype. The game offers rich storytelling and character development, allowing players to interpret and explore its lore in their own unique ways.